Good afternoon and welcome to the Basics of Flight Plan Filing with ForeFlight. My name is Rob MacLeod. I am an FAA aircraft dispatcher, commercial pilot, AGI, and I have the pleasure and privilege of flying the Phenom 300 and Citation 560 Ultra. And I'm also the customer success manager. Joining me today is my good friend and colleague, Tim Stahl. And Tim, introduce yourself, please.
Howdy, I'm Tim Stahl. I'm a FAA aircraft dispatcher, commercial pilot, and flight operations team leader.
And in case you're wondering who's who in this picture, Tim is the one wearing the tie.
No. I'm the one that shaved.
Okay. Anyway, so we are going to next talk about what we're going to cover. So like I said, we're going to cover useful tricks that we think is going to make ForeFlight easier to use and things that, look, if you and I ran into Tim at an FBO and you said, hey, I just got this ForeFlight app, we'd sit you down. Tim would make you buy him an endless bottom of coffee, and we would tell you, here's really how to use this product in a way that's going to affect your flying. So we're going to talk about things like getting the airplane set up. We're going to do a little bit of flight planning. We're not going to teach you how to flight plan because you already know how to do that, but we're going to show you how to do it in the app. And then we're going to talk about filing a flight plan and some of the peculiarities of filing electronically through an app and some of the things that we recommend and some of the things we recommend you don't do. What we will not cover. We're not going to cover things about the dispatch product. We're not going to talk about your logbook. We're not going to talk about weight and balance, and we're not going to talk about subscriptions. So we're not going to cover that. But we will talk about anything that has to do with getting the flight plan on file, getting the airplane ready to go. We want you to ask questions. We're going to encourage you to ask questions. We've got a team of people here to answer questions, and keep it relevant to what we're talking about today. I'm not going to be able to help you out if you can't get one of your subscriptions to load up or something like that. So keep it on the topic of flight plan filing, and we'll be good to go. Now, if I don't answer it right away, it may be because Tim or I are going to cover it later in the webinar. So have a little bit of patience, but we'll try to get to them right away. If it's a really great question, we'll call it out on air. I won't use your name necessarily unless you want me to. And it will probably be a benefit for everybody else. Tim, you got something to add?
Yeah, sure. Okay, on the plus side, I brought in my own coffee today, so you don't have to buy me one of those. And if you do end up having a question about dispatch, logbook, weight and balance, subscriptions, or something that we do not cover here, we have a fantastically fanatical support group at team@foreflight.com. So break out the email and shoot one over to team, TEAM, @foreflight.com, and they'll be able to help you out.
Right. So Tim's going to dictate that email address many times here because really that is the one we want you to use.
And when you do, drink a sip of coffee.
Yeah, drink a sip of coffee every time you hear him say team@foreflight.com. We'll make it a coffee drinking game. Okay. So how do you ask a question? Well, here you go. Go to the ask questions via the Go webinar message panel. And like I said, we're going to respond to many of those. If you haven't already gone there, please go to the foreflight.com/support webpage. This is the center of where we put a lot of information about the product and how to use it. If you put in a keyword search of new user webinar links, you're going to see something that doesn't look like that next screen, but I'll show you. You're going to see a list of links. I have the slides out of order once again. A list of links to different pages, webinars, or videos that we're going to reference occasionally during this webinar. So there's a lot of information in there. So if you haven't been to foreflight.com/support, bookmark that. It's going to help you out. So with that being said, let's get started. That's the page I wanted to see. That's the page I wanted to see. There we go. So that's what it should look like on your side. So let's just talk about real quick before I let Tim get into his stuff here. Just when you first get the product, what should you do before you even attempt to file a flight plan or go flying with ForeFlight? Well, the first thing I would say is get a pot of coffee, find a comfortable chair, sit down, and go through the pilot's guide. Now, I understand the pilot's guide is huge. It has a lot of information in there. Some of it may pertain to the type of flying you're doing. Some of it may not pertain to the type of flying you're doing, or may not pertain to the subscription level that you have. But there's a lot of information in there. If you search it, you're going to find a lot of stuff in there that's just going to be helpful things to help you navigate this product. So I would encourage you to spend some time in the pilot's guide. Second, when you were talking about getting an airplane set up, it's like everything else in aviation. If you start correctly, if you start building the blocks correctly at the base, you're going to be successful farther on. So let's get the airplane set up well before you even attempt to fly. We spend a lot of time in FlightOps talking to users and adjusting how their aircraft profiles are set up. So Tim's going to go into detail on that in a few minutes. But before you do that, gather all the information that you can about the airplane. Get hold of the POH if you can. If you own the airplane, you obviously have the POH. You've got weight and balance info. You got information about the avionics. Get all that information in front of you before you start building the airplane. If you're renting the airplane, or you're at a flight school, a lot of times these flight schools will put a lot of information about the airplane right there on their website as part of their advertising. They want to say, hey, look, we got this fancy new GPS unit with this Adsb unit and all that stuff. And you can just go there, go into ForeFlight.com/support, and we're probably going to be able to have all the codes that you're going to need to fill out the aircraft profile. And then I would say, practice using the app. Just, do some armchair flying. Put some routes in there, mess around with the interface, just get used to how it's working. And pretty soon you're going to be really good at working this with one hand. And then finally, go into ForeFlight.com/support and watch the videos and the webinars. There's going to be tons of stuff in there. If you're a new pilot, if you're a student pilot and you're about to go out on your cross country, our good friend Phil Inman, who we just had lunch with within the last hour, he did a fantastic webinar on how to do a cross-country flight on ForeFlight. And that's going to be, it's right there on that page I've got up there called Cross-Country Flight Planning. So I would recommend you get that. So I've yabbered on long enough. So I'm going to turn this over to Tim, and Tim is going to show you how to set up an aircraft. So Tim, it's your airplane.
All right. My plane. Okay, speaking of airplanes, let's go ahead and build one. In the bottom right-hand corner, we'll tap More, and then we'll go up to Aircraft. Don't mind these other aircraft here. My iPad had an issue earlier, and so I had to steal Rob's. So I'm on Rob's account. I won't do anything wrong on here, promise.
Sorry, I'll just make you fix it.
Yeah, okay, I really won't do anything wrong here. All right, so we'll tap plus symbol to get a new airplane. We'll tap tail number. And if you are in the United States, you need to start with an alpha character. So, for example, November is what usually begins the registries here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If that happens to be your airplane, we appreciate you letting us borrow it for a little bit. We will, oops, going a little too quick here. We'll go down to aircraft type. It's that Maui coffee I'm drinking. And here we'll type in the manufacturer. So let's say Cessna. And then we will pan down to the specific aircraft type that we're going to use. You'll notice, get that out of the way. You'll notice there are a lot of different kinds of Cessnas here, but the codes on the right are what's important because some of the different Cessnas have different codes, and that's the ICAO aircraft type code that will end up in the flight plan filing form. So let's go ahead and just pick this guy. You'll see it fills it in. It fills in some information on it. We're going to come down to performance profiles. This isn't a basic performance subscription, and because of that, it has some pre-built performance profiles that are here. On all basic subscriptions, you'll need to come down to Add Basic Performance Profile. Select that. Let's put a name in for this profile to separate it out from the others. We'll call it Basic. And then what we really need for the basic performance profile is a true airspeed, we'll say 100 knots just to make things easy, and a cruise fuel burn per hour, a little 172, we'll say 9. So there we go. You can fill in this other information if you'd like to. It's not necessary for what we're doing. We'll go back, and you'll see under customer performance profiles, there is a basic performance profile. We'll go back into the aircraft, and you'll notice a lot of this stuff is filled in. Next up, FAA equipment, don't worry about it. You're not going to use it. Everybody's using ICAO now. So we're going to tap ICAO, and we'll go through and we'll select the codes that you need to indicate what you have on board the aircraft to ATC. So for example, if you have a GPS, you'll tap GNSS. And this isn't the GPS that, is a Sentry that's plugged into your app here. We're talking about GPSs that are in the aircraft. You gonna say something, Rob?
The FAA says it has to be installed equipment. Installed equipment.
That means bolted down inside the airplane. All right. Yes, Rob, bolted down.
Bolted down. I'll unscrew it and take it home.
Anyway, okay, so we're going through if you have HF or inertial nav. You probably don't with Cessna 172 unless if something interesting's going on. So if you have ILS, VOR, and a VHF radio, which is down here, what you'll do is you'll select S for standard equipment, and it has those three, so you won't have to select the other ones. You'll see R for PBN approved. We're going to leave that empty for right now, and if you don't have any PBN equipment, you don't need to worry about it. Let's go down to surveillance equipment, and you'll see we have ADSB out, ADSB in and out. There's this is for 1090. If you have UAT, it's a little further down. Right here, UAT out, UAT in and out. You can only select one of these. And if you have in and out, let's say we do, we'll select that. You'll see it autofills the transponder type, mode C, and if that's what we have on the aircraft, that's fine. If you have something else, like say mode S, then you'll throw that in there. And we'll go back. ICAO weight category, we are light in the Cessna 172. This is where the ICAO PBN, which is performance-based navigation, comes in. We can select that. And we'll go through, if you have this, if your aircraft is capable of it, then you'll select whatever PBN code is applicable to the equipment that you have on board the aircraft. If you happen to be shooting RNAV, SIDS, and STARS, you're going to need to have D2, or you're going to have to have the D series. If in this case, it's the GPS that carries the performance-based navigation, so we'll select D2. You'll also notice that in the background here, under ICAO equipment, the Romeo code is automatically filled in.
Yeah, and for those of you who aren't really familiar with, the ICAO equipment, the ICAO surveillance, PBN, on the link page that I talked about earlier, you're going to see two webinars, one called Filing IFR with ForeFlight, where Tim and I are going to go over this in some detail. But if you go to the one that says ICAO Filing Made Easy, which is really kind of a tongue-in-cheek, I go into great detail about the ICAO codes, what the equipment codes mean, what the surveillance code means, what the PBN codes mean. There's also places, if you go into the support center and you type in ICAO equipment, it will give you a page where it will list the different GPS units, and let's just say you have a brand X number such and such in there. I can almost guarantee you we have it on that list, and it will tell you what PBN codes and what equipment codes that particular piece of GPS hardware should add to your profile.
And worst case, there's always team at ForeFlight.com, TEAM at ForeFlight.com.
I'm taking my drink.
I was going to say, I'm drinking some coffee. That's why I mentioned it. Alrighty. Moving along.
See if they need any questions. We don't have any questions.
No
You're
questions
a good
yet.
teacher.
Hey, guys, if you have any questions, this is live. Shoot a question over. We're happy to help. Okay. Twiddling your thumbs.
I'm waiting for somebody to ask a question.
Drink some more coffee. It's good stuff. Okay, we'll go down through here. If you have a dinghy on board the aircraft, emergency equipment, everybody should have an ELT. So we'll put that in here under radios, ELT, and it'll add in. If you happen to be operating in Canada, they have some additional information that is required. The undercarriage, if your skis or wheels or floats or amphib or whatever, you'll put that in there. If you have an ELT that is something unusual, you'll put it in here. We're going to say it's automatic and fixed because it's bolted to the floor. Okay, now we have our aircraft. We're all done with that. Let's move over to maps, build a flight. So you'll notice on maps, we have some buttons at the top. The first one You'll tap it, and on the left-hand side, you have the different charts that are available. On the right-hand side, you have the different overlays that are available. So if, for example, you wanted a US VFR sectional, you'd select here. And then if you wanted some other, let's say the radar composite, you could select that. We're going to unwind that just for this demonstration. We'll leave it on ForeFlight Aeronautical. Next over is the flight plan. You'll drop that down. And this is the flight plan editor. We will come back to this. All you have to do is push the button to get rid of it. One more over, this is settings. And you can choose different settings for this specific page and make it however you like it. Next over. There we go. We're not plugged in. On a basic subscription, you would not have this available to you. I'm showing it here just as something that you might want. Also, if you are plugged into an AHRS device, for example, a Sentry, it would show additional information on this screen, which is all blacked out at this point. So we're going to get rid of that. Over one more, and at the bottom, you will see instruments, flight instruments pop up. And you can go down and select, for example, if you didn't want distance to next, you could tap on it. And there are a variety of instruments that you could install in its place. Direct to next or distance to next seems to work out pretty well for us. We're not doing an actual flight right now. We're in the planning stages, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of those instruments. One more. And these are favorites. And these are just routes that have been built that you might operate on a regular basis. I'll show you how to install them here in just a minute. But if you happen to be doing one of these on a regular basis, you can save it as a favorite route and bring it into the flight plan editor. Now back over to the flight plan editor. Let's say we're going to go from Sugar Land, KSGR, over to Austin, KAUS. We'll put that in. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the route advisor. Tap that, and it'll come up with a number of different routes that are available. There's recommended route, ATC cleared routes, and an airways route. What you will also notice in these is, for example, on this one, it's been cleared. It was cleared yesterday. It's been cleared 431 times total in the last 28 days, and it is available to turboprop and jet aircraft between 10,000 and FL320. So our little Cessna 172, we shouldn't be using this one. The next one up is cleared last Friday, cleared 41 times total. Turboprop piston jet, 4,000 to 8,000. Okay, wow, piston, that's us. In this case, it's the same as the recommended route. So I'll go ahead and select that. Select route. I don't really think 10,000 feet is going to be the best.
It's a little high.
It's a little high for a
I
172.
don't that high.
Can your 172 make it that high? Maybe eventually. By the time you get to Austin, it'll be that high. Okay, so we can go in and we can select the altitude. And for some reason, the winds aren't pulling in. That's weird. Okay, normally the winds would pull in and it'll show with the performance, maybe because we didn't select the performance profile. Okay, so we'll go down, we'll select the basic performance profile. And then we'll come over. Still not updating. Okay, well, you know what? We're going to be operating IFR and we're going to be operating to the west. So we'll pick 6,000 feet. Okay, but you know, today is a really nice day.
It really is a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day. Yeah. I'd like to go VFR instead of IFR. So one of the fun things, and Rob likes to show this, if you want to tap on something inside of the flight plan editor box, for example, this IDU one, and you want to take it and then drop it, it explodes. And it's gone. That's Rob's favorite.
It makes me smile.
That is your favorite Easter egg in this whole thing. Okay. So we're now going Sugar Land, CWK to Austin. We're going to come down to the altitude again. We're going to select VFR because, hey, now we're operating VFR. And let's say 4,500 feet because Rob's scared of heights. This is good, except we happen to be going through a jump zone here. So I'm going to tap on the route, and I'm going to rubber band it down just like that. And you'll notice over on the right-hand side, it pulls in all the different waypoints and whatever that's close by. In this particular instance, the lat long is what we're going to use. We tap on that, and there we go. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, and one thing that this is really helpful for, and we get this question a lot. So let's just say you're a student, or maybe you're going out there and you're trying to get your 3 takeoffs and landings in every 90 days, and you're just planning to go out and fly, and maybe you're just going to go in the pattern. Well, you still need to have a weather briefing. So ForeFlight needs to have an intermediate point between your departure and arrival airport. So if you're coming out of Sugar Land and you just type in Sugar Land is your departure and Sugar Land is your arrival, ForeFlight sees that as distance 0. So it's not going to generate anything for you. So, so you've got to have an intermediate point, but you're not really going anywhere. You're just staying in the pattern. So the easiest thing to do, and like Tim is showing you, just get close to the airport and just find a spot on the downwind. ForeFlight will turn that into a lat long, which creates the intermediate point, and then you'll be able to generate a weather briefing for that flight and make yourself nice and legal. So that's just a little trick that you're probably not going to find anywhere else for the price. But we get this question a lot, and I think it's a valid question because people do want to make sure that they are legal and they're getting the right information for their flight. But that's how you do it. That's just another little trick for the rubber banding there. So.
Yeah, the other thing, if you don't do something like that and you're just going Sugar Land to Sugar Land, or whatever your departure destination is, the same thing, you don't put an intermediate waypoint in there and you try to file it, you will receive a rejection for a 0 distance error because you can't go to and from with nothing in between. So you've got to have a point there. All right. So now we have that point. We're going to zoom out a little bit more. And there's our route. Yes,
so we got, can you see this bottom question?
I can't see that at all.
Oh. You're supposed to be a pilot and be able to see things, Tim.
Well, I can't see something that's that tiny on the other side of the room here. Okay, I don't have the same map view as you. I get a green background. Okay, so if you come up here and you tap on, where is it?
Yeah. If you want the terrain view, you can go to the aerial map.
Right there. So if that's what you're seeing, all you need to go and do is turn off the aerial map and turn on the aeronautical map. Does that answer the question?
I hope so.
Okay, great. I see more that just popped
since you're on that screen.
Yeah, I am on that screen. Okay, great. Okay. So that's how you do that. Some of the buttons here down at the bottom, let's say that you are going to operate this, the little pack button, you'll notice that we have our route and we have a distance around the route. It's 25 nautical? Around it, 25 nautical miles around it. And what this does is it downloads all the data that you will need to operate this flight without being connected to the internet. So if you need a chart or weather along that route, it downloads it in there. I suggest that if you were doing this the night before and you're doing your planning, that while you're on a high-speed internet, you go ahead and pack the previous night. And then when you are on your way out to the airplane, right before you go, you pack again and update the weather, the TFRs, AirMet, SIGMET. You repack some of that information. It won't be as large a download as we have the previous evening, but it will get you the more current information. And so that's pretty useful. We're not going to do that here because we don't want to break the internet again. If you go over one more to that star, that's how you get that favorite route. And so you type in the favorite route name and you save it, and that becomes a favorite that you can pull down from up here. Back over here, the send to button. We'll take a look at the send to button in just a minute. The edit, this is the flight plan editor, so we're in the edit field. Nav Log, if you select that, it will bring up the burns. It's got to be because of the profile that it's not showing some of this, or the weather information. So it'll show burns and times en route. Profile, and the basic subscriptions do not have the profile with all the information in it.
Right, with all the information. Maybe because you don't have time.
Could be. Let's go back over to edit. Well, I had today at 1930Z. Let's put 2330Z. Let's see if that updates. It's not updating. Okay. And that's how you end up putting the time in. Right there. So we'll close and we'll do the send to button. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, I'd like to show one thing on the nav log.
Yeah, shoot.
So just one thing on the nav log, which is kind of cool. If Tim would open it up. Yeah, thank you. So you'll notice there's an arrow between the two waypoints. So it's just basically, showing you that you're on this waypoint and you're moving to the next one. So let's just say, like the example that Tim is highlighting, you're flying IFR. You get this a lot. You're up there zipping around IFR. You're following the route that was assigned to you by ATC, and then they decide to do you a favor and say, November 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, proceed direct Charlie Whiskey Kilo. And you're okay. The easiest way to do it, you got your iPad there or your iPhone in your hand. You have the map screen open, hit the nav log, go to the screen that Tim is showing you, and just click on that button. So go ahead and hit the click and change the plan, hits direct. And now what it does is it just takes you from where you are direct to that waypoint. So you notice the little blue dot is showing where Tim and I are sitting in downtown Houston. So if we want to fly direct there, that would be it. And it's given us, our course heading. And so that's how you fly direct using the nav log screen. I use it a lot when I was flying. I think it's a great little tool. I don't think everybody is really knows that that's in there. You'd have to dig around it's in the pilot's guide, but you got to dig in there to find it in there.
So it also makes the adjustment in the edit field, and when we send it over to flights, it'll make an adjustment there.
Yes, it will make the adjustment. So sorry, Tim, it's back to you.
That's okay. So we're going to, because we've got to be coming from somewhere, and put that in, bring it over, drop it in, and you can see how easy things are to manipulate here. Alrighty, so now we have our flight plan. We're going to hit the send to button. What?
Hit the airplane.
I had the airplane. That's how I got the performance profile. Something happened there. Let's see if that's bringing in some information. Okay. Over to this. Finally, we get to hit the send to button.
Okay, well, one of our users said, "Hey, you didn't hit the aircraft button, so I'm going to see if he needs a job."
Yeah, okay. You want to come over to FlightOps? We'll give you a job. I thought I had the airplane in there. Good catch. All right. Send to, and we're going to send the flight over to flights.
And that's for me, isn't it?
That's for you, Rob.
For me. Okay, well, thanks. All right, so now we're on the flights page.
We have it back?
Yeah.
By the way, if you have any questions after the webinar, you can reach us at team@foreflight.com, TEAM@foreflight.com, and I am drinking some coffee. Thank you very much.
Very good. Okay, so I like to think of the maps page as a great visual tool for you to be able to figure out your situational awareness, where you're going, what's it going to look like, especially if you use some weather overlays. It kind of gives you a lot of information. But here's where you really color in the picture as far as I'm concerned. Now, this is the flights page. This is where you're going to add the additional information. So we've already got the departure and the destination, Sugar Land to Austin. Now, normally when we do this webinar, as Tim mentioned earlier, we were having some issues with, So what you're seeing on the screen is my iPad, and it's got a different subscription level. So you may not see some of the things that we see in here, but if you're interested in getting those, you go on the ForeFlight website and see if, maybe a performance or a pro package is going to be right for you. But we've got the departure, we've got the destination. Now, what if we're flying IFR? We're going to want an alternate probably. Follow the 1, 2, 3 rule, even though it's a beautiful day here in Houston.
Like being safe.
Let's just be safe and let's put an alternate in there. So you select on the alternate field, and ForeFlight's going to start generating information for possible alternates for you. So here you go. They're going to offer you San Antonio. They're going to offer you Austin Executive, so on and so forth. The little green dots on the left are just a visual representation of the weather conditions for the expected time of you going to that alternate. In flying, as we all know, green is good. Anything but green is bad. So pink, blue, red, little crosshairs, little, pirate flags, don't go to that airport. Go to the green ones if you can. It's also going to give you information about the longest runway. It's going to give you information about the weather and the winds. So you can make a choice. It's not always going to give you the closest one, but it's going to give you the best alternates that it believes. Now, what if you don't like any of these places? What if we decide if we can't go to Austin, we're not going at all. We're just going to go right back to Sugar Land. So you can type right in that field and you can just type in KSGR, hit enter. And then down at the bottom, you add Sugar Land as the alternate. It's going to pop right there beneath the destination. And now you have that information. Now, also the time and fuel burn to get to that alternate is also going to now be included in your Nav Log as part of your fuel calculation. So it's going to do that for you automatically. Okay, so now we're down to, we've gone through the aircraft, we've gone through the performance profile. We've got it at IFR. You want to switch it back over to VFR? All right, we're on a VFR flight plan. Again, here's a visual representation of the route. Here's the route down there. You can add or subtract as needed if you wanted to. It acts just like the route advisor on the maps page, but we're going to be fine with that. We've got the altitude set at 6,000 feet. One person, if you needed to add more people, hey, now there's our winds, Tim. There's our winds. How about that? It's pretty good stuff, huh? All right. If you needed to add people, you could do that there, or payload, cargo, if you're bringing a set of golf clubs with you, whatever. We'll continue down. We've got fuel on board. Now, if you're, again, if you're working in a basic profile, it's going to look a little bit different. You're not going to have all these options, but if you're a performance profile, performance subscription, you're going to see these options down here. Continuing down to the destination services, this is kind of good information for you. Let's just say we're going to go over to Atlantic. Here's the air to ground frequency. So you can call them up 10, 15 minutes out, say, hey, have the car ready for me, or I'm going to need a top off, whatever you need to tell them. If you're doing it off your cell phone, you could click the little cell phone, it'll call them. You can get directions, you can email them, and it's going to give you information. So it's just handy information here. You could even send a fuel order if you wanted to. Down the next area is the flight log. This is where you can calculate your fuel. If you have a fuel display in your airplane that you actually trust.
Mine shows 0 when it's empty.
Yeah, Tim's shows 0 when it's empty. But if you have a digital gauge, you can put in the starting fuel and then put in the ending fuel, and it will do the fuel calculations for you. Same thing with the flight times. Here's where you put in your starting hobs, your ending hobs. It will do the calculations for you. I love that because I stink at math, which is why I ended up in aviation. So here we go.
Here you are.
Again, here's the pack feature. So there's questions about, okay, you hit the pack button the night before so that you make sure that you get all your charts, like Tim was saying, got all your charts, all the big downloads done while you have high-speed internet at the house. You're sitting at the FBO getting ready to go. You're going to hit it again. It's still going to download it. If you wait another 30, 45 minutes to an hour and hit pack again, you're going to download more stuff because we're constantly updating. NOTAMs are coming out. NOTAMs are going away. AirMets are coming out. I mean, it's just weather changes. We're going to try to give you the very latest info. So that's why pack's always going to be generating. So I recommend, just like Tim said, right before you head out to the airplane, do your last minute thing, whatever you need to do in the building, hit that button, get the latest download before you head out to the airplane. All right. So now we have that done. So once we're happy with all the information on this screen, we're going to hit proceed to file, and it's going to take us to the file page. Now this is an easier visualization of the ICAO form. Now you used to be able to change the form up here from ICAO to NAS, but the FAA mandated in 2019 that you have to file ICAO. And even if you don't know that you've been filing ICAO, if you've been filing in ForeFlight, you have been filing ICAO. ForeFlight, because ForeFlight's an awesome product, does everything for you. We'll format the whole thing for you. So don't freak out about ICAO. And if you are going to freak out about ICAO, you can watch the ICAO Filing Made Easy webinar. You like that? I just segued into that. That was good. So anyways, it takes care of everything for you. Flight rules were good. Flight type is good. You're just going through here. Just look it through. It's your pre-flight of your flight plan. So pre-flight that flight plan. We'll be fine with that. Yeah, we'll just leave that alone. If you did have a call sign, Tim, you want to talk about call signs real quick?
Yeah, sure. That's what I was hitting on. Okay, I needed the mic back. So, if you happen to be utilizing a call sign, this is where you would enter the call sign. And this isn't something made up. If you're thinking that you're Tiger 123, don't put that in there because ATC will call you on it. Your aircraft registry will go here, your call sign goes here, and the call sign is a 3 alpha character with numerics afterwards.
It depends on how
it depends on it. So that's generally what it is for civilian flights. Going back.
All right, thanks. Okay, so we're back on this screen. We're going to continue going through to make sure we have everything we need in here, and it should reflect what you had. It will reflect what you had on the previous screen. So you can keep going down. Look at that. That's right. I've got enough fuel. I'm legal. Good. Other information. We cover this in the ICAO Filing Made Easy. We also cover it in the filing IFR with ForeFlight. There's some things you want to have in here depending on the type of flying you do, but if you're normal general aviation filing, probably not crucial that you have that type of information in there, like your DAT codes, your NAV codes, your surveillance specific codes. STS special handling, that's for if you're flying medevac, you're doing an air ambulance, maybe you're doing some sort of government flying, maybe you're flying head of state. I don't know. But if you need it, you know it, and you'll already know how to put that in there. But that's where you would put that stuff. Now, remarks. This is some place where you can put stuff in there for the controller's benefit. Okay, let's just say you're doing a flight. Maybe you're coming in from Mexico. You went down to Mexico for vacation. You're going to be flying back in here. You can put ADCUS in that field. If you're up with a safety pilot and you're trying to get you're trying to get some approaches done, this is where you type in. Yeah, request 3 ILS approaches at KSGR. Even though, and you can type that in there and ATC will see it and they'll know what to expect. So use the remarks field for stuff like that. And remember, remarks have to be alphanumeric. So don't put ampersands or, question marks or just the facts, just alphanumeric characters. Because we see rejections occasionally from stuff like that. Destination, we've got all that. Oh, you got something? Go ahead.
And if you happen to have a couple of rejections and then you see a call coming from 713-832, or I think we just use 713 area code and 832 area code. Yeah. If you see a call coming in from one of those numbers while you're having problems, it's probably my team trying to reach out to you to help you out with that rejection. Okay, going back.
All right, thanks. Yep. All right, so we're going down through destination. You can put this information in there. It's going to be additional information. Again, same thing with the dinghy counts, the life jackets, and so on and so forth. But what I really want to talk about is the pilot information down here. So put in your real name, okay? If you have a nickname, that's fine. But put your name in here. So I got Hank Cowdog. That's Tim's favorite name. Yeah, my email address, and that's my ForeFlight email. So if you want to spam my email address, use team@foreflight.com, please. Right. Address, you don't have to fill that in, at least not here in the US. Okay. But in the phone field, please, if you take nothing away from this webinar, please put in your cell phone number here. Don't put in your home phone. Don't put in your office phone. Don't put in your mom's phone number. Put in the cell phone that you're going to have in your pocket when you're at the airport getting ready to fly. And I know you all have cell phones because you all have iPads, so you're going to have a cell phone. The reason for it is twofold. First of all, Tim's team, the flight operation team, if we run into a problem and you're about to go in like 15 minutes, we know you're not going to be checking your email. So we'll try to call you. That's why Tim said, if you see a call, you're having a problem with a filing and it's from an 832 or a 713 area code, pick it up. It's one of us trying to get hold of you to help you out, get you on file. Also, it's the number that ATC is going to use. If you go Nordo, if you're overdue, it's the first thing they're going to do is try to reach out to you on that phone number to see if you're okay. So please put in a good number that's going to ring on your cell phone. Don't use anything else. Don't use the office. Don't use, your friend's phone number. Just put in your cell phone number. License, you don't need that here in the US, so you can leave that blank. So if you're satisfied with all of that, go ahead and hit the file button and hopefully it will work. Now, when you hit this, you're going to see this little pop-up box. Are you ready to file this plan for this tail? And it's going to tell you a time. Make sure that time actually jives with when you plan to go flying. It's not 5 minutes from now. I mean, unless you're leaving in 5 minutes. I've done that. But just make sure the time matches up and you haven't put in the wrong ETD. And if you're satisfied with that, go ahead and hit file. Give it a second. Okay, boom, file. We got the happy green check mark. Now you have these other options at the bottom. Now that you're on file, you're in the system for ATC. Granted, it's a VFR flight plan. Now you can cancel, amend, or activate the flight plan. I would recommend, do we want to just talk real quick about what happens with a VFR flight plan?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so when you file a VFR flight plan, what it does, when you hit that button, it goes into a gigantic bucket at flight service and it just sits in there. It doesn't really get pulled out of that bucket until you hit the activate button. VFR flight plans are primarily a search and rescue function. It's a big timer. It's a clock that starts so that when you get off the ground, they know what your expected time en route is to your destination. So when you hit that activate button, the clock starts turning. And if you don't show up on time or within 30 minutes, they're going to start looking for you. So what I recommend is I file my flight plans usually, at home or from the FBO on my iPad. And then when I'm done with my run up, before I, if I'm coming out of Sugar Land, before I call tower, I pull out my cell phone, I'll hit activate. And then I'll call tower, tell them I'm ready to go, and I'll be off the ground within a minute or two. So that's what happens there when you hit the activate button. And please remember, if you get someplace and you don't have good cell phone service or you're suspicious of how good your cell phone service, your internet connection is, call flight service and just make sure your flight plan is closed. Just make sure. We get a lot of phone calls from the FAA with overdue airplanes. And we hate having to make those phone calls going, hey, did you close that flight plan? Because they're kind of looking for you. So make sure you do that. Now, let's just say we wanted to do something. We wanted to amend this particular flight plan, Tim. Let's just say, since I'm scared of heights, I don't want to be at 6,000 feet. So let's change it to 4,000 feet. So, let's change it down to, let's go real low. Let's go down to 2,500 because I'm going to crop dust and I get 2 more knots of tailwind. So you just go up to where you want to make the change. So we changed it from 4,500 to 2,500. Once you've made the change, hit amend. You're going to see this. And what it's basically asking you is, hey, this is different than what you had previously. And you just say, yes, I know, copy.
Yeah, don't hit ignore.
Don't hit ignore, hit copy. And then you'll notice it says file changes. So go ahead and hit the file changes.
I also wanted to show up here where the altitude.
You go down a bit more.
No, I skipped it.
There you go.
There it is. It's 2,500 feet.
Yep.
So you'll see the changes in the filing form.
Yes.
We'll tap file changes and amend.
And now the flight plan is amending.
All right.
Perfect. Okay. So we've amended the flight plan. We've shown you how to file it. Hit the activate button. We're not going to hit the activate button because we're obviously not flying an airplane today. But now let's cancel it. Canceling is real simple. Hit cancel, say yes. Give it a minute, and now your flight plan is canceled. It's out of the system. You're free and clear. Go do whatever else you need to do. Now, the same kind of thing applies for IFR, but we want to talk about the filer and lockout time.
Talk about the filer and lockout.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Okay. So ATC has something called a filer lockout time, and that is generally 45 minutes prior to your estimated time of departure. ATC locks out any changes to the flight plan unless if it goes through either flight service or when you call up center for your clearance, call up clearance delivery, and you can make changes that way. But if you try to make changes, generally 45 minutes. Some centers are up to an hour. you won't be able to through the app. So you'll have to call clearance delivery and let them know what the changes are. And in that vein, if you have a change like, oh, we're departing 30 minutes later than we were supposed to be, that's not a big deal because your flight plan remains in the system for up to 2 hours after your estimated time of departure. So you don't have to make any amendments. Just when you call for clearance, say, hey, we're a little late getting it, and they'll have it, no big deal. If you happen to be early, like for example, you filed the flight plan, but you are going half an hour early, they have your flight plan. You don't have to amend it. What you do is when you're calling clearance delivery, you say, hey, we're early. We're half an hour early, and they will find it. Your strip hasn't been printed yet that early, so they'll have to actually go in and find it. You'll need to let them know that you're early. Otherwise, they'll say that they don't have the strip printed. Okay, going back to you.
Great. All right, so interesting question came in about activating the flight plan. I mentioned that I activate it via my phone. I do the flight planning on my iPad. Yeah, so ForeFlight has a thing called Sync, and it's amazing, and they've tried to explain it to me, and I don't understand it. But what it does is ForeFlight talks from, like, if I'm doing something on my iPad, it's talking to my cell phone, my ForeFlight app in my cell phone, and it's also talking to my ForeFlight web. So all three of them are talking to each other. So whatever you do on the iPad is going to be reflected on the phone. It syncs. Yeah, so it's amazing. These guys are really smart. Yeah. So that's why you can do something on your iPad, have it on the seat next to you, pull out your phone, which has cell service, because my iPad doesn't have cell service. It just has Wi-Fi. And hey, there's my flight plan. I can do whatever I want there. So it's called Sync. So good question. We didn't bring that up. Yep. Okay, so we've got the flight plan on file. Tim has already talked about the filer lockout. Let's do this one last thing, Tim. Let's go back into the flights page and go up to the top, and let's talk about the nav log and the briefing, please. Okay, so the nav log up here, you can go ahead and click on that. So the nav log, this is a basic nav log. In the old days, you'd have to fill this out with your little pencil, but ForeFlight's doing all the math for you.
That E6
yeah, and you get out the old E6, the whiz wheel, and you're doing it with your thumb. Yeah. So this is going to provide you with a nice document. When I'm out there flying, if I'm in the Citation or the Phenom, I'll go to the FBO early and print it out, just so I have a place to write down my clearances, my ATIS, and all that good stuff. But it's got all the information you need in there, so it's great. And it shouldn't be allowed for student pilots because it's cheating. It's cheating. They should have to do it the old way, like I did. But anyways, that's your nav log is in there. And it's got tons of information. If you're thinking about changing altitudes, yeah, scroll back up there. Oop, back down.
Sorry, too much coffee.
Down. I want to show the change in altitudes.
Down,
right there. There you go. There we go. So it's just going to show you if we were going to change our altitude a bit, here's what the wind, the changes in the wind. So if you decide, hey, I'm getting clobbered down here at 2,500 feet, it might get a little better or it might get a little bit worse. So it's just going to show you that. It's also going to show you your times and burns. It's going to give you your frequencies, so you don't have to be scrambling around on the app looking for your frequencies. It's right there in front of you. And then it's going to show you a map of the airport. Because I can make it to the airport, but I'm lost once I'm on the ground. I don't know where the heck I'm going.
Progressive taxi.
Yeah, give me a progressive taxi. That's great. So that's your nav log. Now let's go and take a look at the briefing real quick. And this briefing here is going to give you all of the pertinent information that you're going to need for a flight plan. So, if you look at the regs, it says the pilot must have all available information for the upcoming flight, including such and such and such. But they don't really specify what all that individual information is. So we're just going to give you a ton of information. We're going to give you the nav log. We're going to give you the ICAO copy of the flight plan. If you want to stop there real quick, I'll talk on that real fast. The ICAO right here. So if you ever go down and you're going to fly in someplace like Mexico, you're going to need that, because even though you file electronically, the FBO is going to want a hard copy of your flight plan. And here it is. So you can just print this page out and it will be pre-filled out nice and neat for you, and they'll take it and stamp it and then get you on file. But we put that in there for a reason. We're going to give you all your weather information, your winds aloft, your temperatures, and then it's going to give you your TAFs and METARs. I've got some additional stuff set up in here. I got a lot of stuff in here, but you're going to get your METARs, your TAFs for all the airports that are going to be, in the area that you're going to be flying, and then it's going to have SIGMETs, AirMets, NOTAMs, all the stuff you need. So briefing is there. Be sure to give that a look through there. So it's going to be very helpful for you. I think that is what we needed to cover. Tim, can you think of anything we neglected?
Well, we didn't show an IFR flight plan, but it's very similar to a VFR flight plan.
All right, well, go ahead. You want to go through one real quick? We've got 7 minutes to kill.
Do we have any questions coming in?
Somebody has a question about alternates, but they didn't really say what the question was. So so type in another question and maybe we can get to it here while Tim talks about IFR.
So if you have a question about alternates, send it in again. More detail. All right. IFR flight plan. You can come over here to flight rules, tap IFR. There we go. We'll go down. We're going to make a change to the altitude and we're going to put it at an even. Everything else is fine. Proceed to file. Here's that copying things over to the form. If we hit ignore, all the original information will remain and we don't actually get what we want. So we're going to copy the new information over to it. You'll notice the altitude just updated. And up here, IFR from VFR, we tap file. Make sure everything is correct. And file. We'll get a green check mark here shortly, hopefully. Come on, green check mark. You'll notice that there is just cancel and amend are the buttons for IFR. You'll also notice that we get an updated routing. We're not going to go into expected routes, but you have cancel and amend. So those work exactly the same way as on the VFR flight plan. And we're going to go ahead and cancel it and hit yes. And there we go. We filed and canceled an IFR flight plan in like 2 minutes.
Can you, this is a tall order for you, but I think it's a good question.
Okay, what you got?
So we got a question here. How do you change altitude? So let's just say I'm taking off from Sugar Land. I'm going to the northwest, and then my next leg is going to take me to the northeast. Can you real quick show how you can real easily change your altitude at a waypoint?
Yeah, so on this maps page, you'll tap on the specific waypoint. You'll go in and set altitude, speed, time, select that button, select the altitude, and it is in feet. So if you happen to be operating a jet in flight levels, please remember that you're in feet, not flight levels. And we'll type in, say, if we were going back eastbound, we'll say 7,000 feet. I know this is all still westbound, but you'll get the idea. You tap done.
And now you see it right there.
Yeah, and you see FL070, it's in there. And when we bring it over, it remains 7,000. And when you file it, it'll bring it over into the FPL message to ATC. Does that answer the question?
I think that worked, hopefully. Cool. If that didn't fully answer your question,
team at ForeFlight.com.
Team at ForeFlight.com.
Well, my coffee.
Yeah, I finished mine about 5 minutes ago. So, okay, there was a question about creating an aircraft. If you add a call sign versus your tail number on the initial setup, would that cause an Adsb mismatch? Yeah, it could, depending on how your Adsb is set up. There are some Adsbs that you can program, what tail or what call sign you're going to be under. You need to know how your Adsb is set up.
Also, if you do that, please remember that the reg field in the flight plan filing form will not be the correct registry. So you'd have to go in and correct the REG field.
So that's kind of an interesting, it's pretty complicated. We'd be very happy to have a phone conversation with you about that, go through the nuances. We have a lot of documentation on that because that is something we run into a lot. What I have seen some people do is they'll build the initial aircraft with the tail, and then they'll duplicate that airplane with the call sign. So like if you're an Angel Flight, right? If you're doing Angel Flight or Planes for Pause or one of those, right? They'll create two different profiles. So if I'm doing an Angel Flight, I'm going to use this profile. It's the same as the other airplane. It's just got the call sign instead. So, but send us an email. We'll be happy to have a conversation with you and go through it. We just don't really have we're kind of running out of time on that there. So I saw some other questions about transferring stuff over to your FMS. That information is in the support doc is in the on the support page. So you can follow it up, shoot us an email. We got people who can talk to you at length about that. But we are running out of time, Tim. I want to thank you. We made it through another one once again. I think we're still employed as of a couple of minutes ago.
Well, we still have a couple minutes.
Yeah,
So,
we can still mess it up. But we want to thank all of you. I know you had other things you could possibly be doing on an afternoon like this, but you decided to spend it with us and learn a little bit more about ForeFlight. We greatly appreciate that. And we greatly appreciate you trusting ForeFlight as a tool in your flying. We are here to help. Team at ForeFlight.com. We're pilots like you guys. And we want to help. We want to make sure that you're safe and enjoying your flying out there. So we greatly thank you for being here with us. And then I want to put a big shout out to everybody who helped us, the always patient Sam and Jay, who have to reteach us how to set up this room to do this broadcast every single time. And then I think Susan and Derek. Susan and Derek were answering the questions. So thank you so much, guys. We really do greatly appreciate that, and be careful out there, and thank you for using ForeFlight.